Hello everyone, welcome back again. I hope your day is calm and beautiful. Today we are going to travel far into the past. Our story is about a famous queen who lived more than 2,000 years ago. She lived in grand palaces beside the Nile River. She met powerful rulers and changed the history of the ancient world. Her life was filled with ambition, intelligence, danger, and heartbreak. Many people remember her beauty, but there was much more to her than that. She was educated, fearless, and determined to protect her kingdom. Her name was Cleopatra. If you enjoy learning English through historical stories like this one, please support the channel and stay with us for more amazing journeys through history. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC in the great city of Alexandria in Egypt. Alexandria was one of the most famous cities in the ancient world. It was full of magnificent buildings, busy markets, and beautiful harbors. Traders arrived from many different countries. Scholars came there to study science, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy. The city was also home to the famous Library of Alexandria, which held thousands of valuable books. Cleopatra's father was King Ptolemy XII. Even though her family ruled Egypt, they were originally Greek. Their ancestors came from Macedonia after the conquests of Alexander the Great. For nearly 3 centuries, the Ptolemy family controlled Egypt and lived like pharaohs. Life inside the royal family was difficult and dangerous. Brothers fought each other for power. Sisters became enemies. In many cases, family members even married one another because this was considered royal tradition. Cleopatra grew up surrounded by politics and competition. From an early age, she understood that being part of the royal family meant living with fear and uncertainty. Still, she was not interested only in power. She loved education and learning more than anything else. She studied languages carefully and became highly intelligent. She spoke Greek fluently, but she also learned Egyptian, something very unusual for rulers in her family. Earlier kings and queens rarely spoke the language of ordinary Egyptians, but Cleopatra wanted to communicate directly with her people. She continued studying many subjects. She learned about medicine, geography, literature, and mathematics. She enjoyed music and philosophy and spent countless hours reading important texts. Teachers in Alexandria admired her sharp memory and curious mind. Many people believed she was the brightest person in the royal palace. Cleopatra knew that knowledge could help her become a stronger ruler. However, intelligence alone could not solve Egypt's problems. During this period, Rome was becoming more powerful every year. Roman armies conquered many lands around the Mediterranean Sea. Countries everywhere feared Roman influence. Egypt was wealthy because of its grain, gold, and trade routes, but militarily it was weak. Cleopatra's father tried to remain friendly with Rome by sending gifts and money to Roman leaders. Despite his efforts, many Romans viewed him as weak. They mocked him and questioned his leadership. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father died, and suddenly she became queen. According to tradition, she had to rule beside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only a child. Officially, they were co-rulers, but Cleopatra quickly became the true authority in government. She spoke with foreign diplomats, managed important decisions, and controlled royal finances. Her brother's advisors strongly disliked this situation. They believed a woman should not possess so much power. These advisors wanted to control the young king themselves, so they began turning people against Cleopatra. They spread rumors and accused her of ignoring ancient traditions. Slowly, Cleopatra lost support in Alexandria. Political enemies worked carefully against her until finally she was forced to leave Egypt. She escaped east toward Syria. At only 21 years old, she had lost her throne and much of her power. Yet Cleopatra refused to surrender. While living in exile, she prepared a plan to return. She gathered supporters, searched for money, and built an army. She understood that she needed a powerful ally if she hoped to defeat her enemies. Around this same time, an important event was taking place inside the Roman Republic. Julius Caesar, one of Rome's greatest generals, was chasing his rival Pompey after a civil war. Pompey fled to Egypt, hoping to receive protection from the young king's advisors. But Pompey made a terrible mistake. The advisors believed Caesar would reward them if they killed his enemy. When Pompey arrived in Egypt, they murdered him before he could meet Caesar. Soon afterward, Julius Caesar entered Alexandria. Instead of being pleased, he was disgusted by the murder. Caesar believed Pompey deserved respect, even as an enemy. While Caesar stayed inside the royal palace, Cleopatra realized this was her opportunity. She needed to speak with him directly. However, her enemies controlled the city, and entering openly would be extremely dangerous. Cleopatra therefore created a daring plan that would later become legendary. One evening, a servant carried a large rolled carpet into Caesar's palace chambers. The guards believed it was a gift for the Roman leader. When the carpet was opened, Cleopatra stepped out in front of Caesar himself. He was astonished by her courage and intelligence. Cleopatra spoke confidently and explained the political situation in Egypt. She told Caesar about the corruption of her brother's advisors and argued that she should regain her throne. Caesar admired cleverness, and Cleopatra impressed him deeply. Their relationship quickly became very close. Caesar was much older than Cleopatra, but they enjoyed each other's company. Some historians believe they truly loved one another. Others think their relationship was mainly political. Whatever the truth may be, Caesar decided to support her claim to the throne. He announced that Cleopatra and her brother should rule together peacefully according to Egyptian tradition. The advisors refused to accept Caesar's decision. Fighting soon broke out across Alexandria. Caesar and Cleopatra became trapped inside the palace with only a small force of Roman soldiers. Outside the palace, the Egyptian army surrounded them. Battles erupted in the streets and near the harbor. During the chaos, fires spread through parts of Alexandria. Some ancient writers later claimed that sections of the famous library were destroyed during these attacks. The conflict lasted for months, and conditions became extremely dangerous. Eventually, additional Roman troops arrived and defeated the Egyptian forces. Ptolemy XIII attempted to escape across the Nile River, but his boat overturned and he drowned. After the war, Cleopatra finally regained control of Egypt. Caesar remained by her side, and together they traveled along the Nile River. They visited temples, monuments, and ancient pyramids. Cleopatra soon gave birth to a son named Caesarion, which meant Little Caesar. She declared Julius Caesar to be the child's father. Later she traveled to Rome with her son and stayed in Caesar's luxurious villa. Many Romans were uncomfortable with Cleopatra's presence. They disliked the idea of a foreign queen living so close to Roman political power. Some feared Caesar planned to become a king, with Cleopatra beside him. Tension inside Rome continued growing. Then tragedy struck. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by Roman senators inside the Senate building. The conspirators stabbed him repeatedly because they believed he threatened the Roman Republic. Cleopatra was shocked and frightened by the news. Without Caesar's protection, she could no longer remain safely in Rome. She quickly returned to Egypt with her young son. After Caesar's death, another struggle for power began in Rome. Several ambitious leaders fought to control the Republic. Among them was Mark II Antony, a brave military commander and close friend of Caesar. Another important figure was Octavian, Caesar's adopted son. Eventually, Mark Antony and Octavian defeated Caesar's assassins and divided Roman territories between themselves. Antony controlled the eastern regions, while Octavian governed the west. Mark Antony needed financial support for his armies, and Egypt possessed enormous wealth. He invited Cleopatra to meet him in the city of Tarsus. Cleopatra understood how important this meeting could become. She arrived on a magnificent ship, decorated with purple sails and shining ornaments. According to stories from the ancient world, she dressed like the goddess Aphrodite. Mark Antony was fascinated immediately. Soon the two leaders formed both a political alliance and a romantic relationship. Cleopatra and Antony spent years together. They celebrated with grand feasts and luxurious parties, but they also worked closely in politics and war. Antony relied on Egypt's resources, while Cleopatra depended on Roman military protection. Together they had 3 children. However, their partnership created serious problems with Octavian back in Rome. Octavian began spreading propaganda against Antony. He claimed Antony had forgotten his Roman duties because of Cleopatra. He described Cleopatra as a dangerous foreign queen who wanted to control Rome itself. Step by step, Octavian convinced many Romans to hate both Antony and Cleopatra. In 31 BC, the conflict finally exploded into war. The decisive battle took place near Actium on the western coast of Greece. Antony and Cleopatra commanded a huge fleet of ships against Octavian's navy. For many hours, the battle continued fiercely. Eventually, Antony's forces started losing ground. During the confusion, Cleopatra's ship suddenly sailed away from the battlefield. Antony followed her, leaving much of his fleet behind. Many soldiers surrendered to Octavian soon afterward. Antony and Cleopatra escaped back to Egypt, but they knew the situation was becoming hopeless. They tried desperately to prepare for Octavian's invasion. Cleopatra searched for allies, while Antony attempted to rebuild his military strength. Yet almost nobody was willing to oppose Octavian anymore. 1 year later, Octavian's army entered Egypt. Antony suffered another defeat, and soon heard a false rumor claiming Cleopatra had died. Overcome by grief and despair, he stabbed himself with his own sword. He did not die immediately. Servants carried the wounded Antony to Cleopatra, and he passed away in her arms. Cleopatra was devastated. Now she faced Octavian alone. Octavian treated Cleopatra respectfully, but she understood the truth. She was now his prisoner. He intended to take her to Rome and display her during a victory parade. For a proud queen, this humiliation was unbearable. Cleopatra decided she would never allow herself to become a symbol of defeat. In August of 30 BC, she died at the age of 39. Ancient stories say she used the bite of a poisonous snake called an asp. Other historians believe she drank poison instead. The exact truth remains uncertain even today. With Cleopatra's death, the independence of ancient Egypt also ended. Octavian took control of the kingdom and transformed it into a province of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra became remembered as the final pharaoh of Egypt. After centuries of royal history, her death closed an important chapter in the ancient world. Yet people never forgot her story. More than 2,000 years later, books, movies, and historians still discuss her life. Why does Cleopatra remain so famous? Partly because she lived during one of history's most dramatic periods. But people also admire her intelligence, confidence, and determination. She understood politics in a world dominated by powerful men. She spoke several languages and valued education deeply. Of course, she also made mistakes. Some critics believe she cared too much about power and luxury. Others think she truly fought to protect Egypt from foreign control. Perhaps both ideas contain some truth. Human beings are always complicated. Cleopatra's story teaches us that knowledge and courage can shape history. She faced danger many times and still continued fighting for her kingdom. Even after losing power, she refused to surrender easily. Her life reminds us that learning languages and understanding different cultures can open doors to great opportunities. Today, when we study English or any other language, we are also building new connections with the world around us. Every new word we learn increases our confidence and understanding. Thank you for joining me on this journey into ancient Egypt. I hope you enjoyed learning about Cleopatra and the fascinating world she lived in. I also hope this story helped you practice and improve your English listening skills. If you enjoyed today's lesson, please support the channel and share it with friends who love history and storytelling. Feel free to leave a comment about which historical figure you would like to hear about next. Until our next story, continue learning, continue exploring, and continue enjoying the wonderful adventure of language and history together.